I shared 3 interesting secrets to achieve a perfect pleated high waist skirt. The first step is the method on how you can calculate for your exact pleat and the exact fabric you need to avoid any shortage as you pleat. The second secret is how to achieve a perfect zipper and a relaxed pleat at the back part of your pleated skirt. If this is something you are interested in learning, kindly continue watching. Let's get started. Here I have 1 yard of thick crepe and it is by 60 in length. Now on the by 60 part of the fabric, I place it on 2 fold. I'm going to place it on another fold like this. I'm going to go ahead to mark out my hip line measurement minus 1 inch. My hip line measurement is 9 minus 1 inch would give me 8. So I'll go ahead to mark this all through and I'm going to cut it out. Okay, we are going to be using this cut out to cut out the upper part of the skirt. I'm going to open it up like this, take the 2 edge of the fabric, place it on fold. I'll be trimming out this rough part to make it equal as well. I'll make sure and mark out 1 inch. This 1 inch will be serving as my zipper allowance. I'll take the other end of the fabric and I'm going to place it on my zipper allowance line. This will be serving as the front center and it is the closed part of the fabric. I'll measure my waist measurement divided by 4, 1 inch for that intake and my sewing allowance of 1.5 inch. Mark out my hip measurement and add my sewing allowance of 1.5 inch. Connect the 2 points together and I'll cut this out. Now on the front part, I do not want a front waist dart because I do not have a fleshy stomach. But if you have a fleshy stomach, do also add a front waist dart. So I'll just go ahead to remark what I used as my front waist dart intake and I'll connect it straight up to the hip like this and I'll cut it out. This cutout should not affect the hip measurement. Please do not forget to notch the top part on both the front and the back so you do not mistake where the up and the down part is. So you can see the difference on the waist part for both the front and the back part. From what is left of the cutout, on the by 60 part, I place it on fold. I'll be using the by 60 width for my plate, and so that I have enough, I'll place it on 2 fold and I'm going to be cutting it out so that I have 2 of the by 60 part for my plate. So now I have 2. I'm going to join it together to get a single piece before making my plate. So for the back, I went ahead to cut my lining for the back part. Now I'm going to measure my bust span measurement divided by 2 plus half of an inch. Now I'm going to mark this out and I will notch it on both the fabric and on the lining. This will be serving as where my dart will sit at the back. For the dart, I'll be using a dart length of 6 inches and I'm going to be sewing my dart on the fabric separately and on the lining separately. I have also cut out lining for the front part. I will not be fixing a front dart. I'll only sew the top. I have gone ahead to join the 2 pieces that I want to be using for my pleat together. So as you can see, I have a very long piece that I'm going to be using for my pleat. And I've also gone ahead to fold it down. Please ensure you fold it down or weave it down before you start making your pleat. Whatever you intend to do to the down, do it before you start working on the pleat. So I'll go ahead to be marking 4.5 inches for each pleat. I'll be sharing with you 2 steps. The first step is how you can calculate for each pleat and the second step is how you can calculate for the total amount of fabric you need to make a pleated skirt so you will not have any shortage. But if you would not want to see this, you can actually skip this video to this point where we have started the sewing aspect of the skirt. To get the width of each pleat, you are going to decide how wide you want each of the pleats to be. Now for the skirt I am working on, the width of each pleat I used 1.5 inches. You can decide to make it bigger by making it a 2.5, 3, or as wide as you want each pleat to be, or as small as you want each pleat to be. So this 1.5 inches is my desired width of pleat. Now you're going to multiply whatever you want as your desired pleat by 3. This 3 is a constant. So when I multiply mine, I have a 4.5. This is to say each pleat on the skirt I worked on is 4.5 inches wide. This is why I marked out 4.5. You can apply your desired inch and mark out accordingly. Now this is step 1. For the step 2, you need to know the exact amount of fabric you need before you start pleating. This is to avoid shortage as you pleat, because this shortage might make you want to reduce the intake you need for each pleat, and when you reduce the intake at any point, it would affect your skirt when you are done, as the pleat will not be equal and it will not relax perfectly when you iron it. So you need to know the exact amount of fabric you need before you even start pleating. And to know this is what to do. You are going to take your hip measurement or the circumference of anything you are working with. My hip measurement is 35, and you are going to divide it by the width of each pleat, which is 1.5. So this is my hip measurement divided by 1.5, which is my desired width for each pleat. So when I divide it, I got a 23.333. Now, if you get a decimal at this point, just go ahead to approximate it to a whole number. That's what I wrote down here. Approximate to whole number if you get any decimal at this point. Now, according to the skirt I made, if you count along with me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is the back. I have 12. So let's swipe to the front. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for the front. 12 plus 12 is a 24. I have exactly 24 pleats when I was done sewing. Now, if each pleat is 4 inches wide, then 24 pleats would be how many inches wide? We are going to multiply the number of pleats by the width of each pleat. Now, 24 pleats is the number of pleats I need, and 4.5 is the width of one pleat. So when I multiply this, I have a 108 inches. So my fabric is expected to be 108 inches long. Now, whatever the total width of the fabric you need is, do well to have a fabric at hand that is extra 3 inches longer than the exact inches you need. The extra 3 inches will serve as a zipper allowance. You can screenshot it and insert your own measurements, follow these procedures, and it will come out exactly like what I did. Before you start marking the width of each pleat, which is 4.5, so you're going to mark out your zipper allowance. So I'll be marking 1 inch for my zipper allowance. So I cleaned out what I marked out before so that I can just mark out my zipper allowance before I start inserting the width of each pleat. So I'll just go ahead to remark this to the other end of the fabric. To start the pleat, from your zipper allowance point, you are going to measure the width of one pleat, which is 1.5 inch. You mark it out like this from the beginning after your zipper allowance line. Then you are going to take that mark point and you can decide to pleat your pleat forward or backward. So I'll be pleating my forward. You take the mark point and you place it on this point like this. I will just pin this up and I'll be explaining how I will be sewing this on my sewing machine with my pins. So this will be for one pleat. Now for the next pleat, you are going to ensure that the next pleat sits directly where the overlap of the other pleats end. So you take your mark point, you use your hands to feel where the overlap ends underneath, and you place the next pleat directly where the other overlap stop. All right, so if you are sewing this, you go ahead to top stitch this, but since I'm trying to explain this very well so you can see it, just ensure that the next mark is starting where the other overlap stop inside. So I'll just pin it up like this. Now I'll take the next pleat and I'm going to repeat the same thing, making sure it sits directly where the overlap of the other one stop. Just use your hands to feel it as you place your pleat on it. You should start immediately where the overlap of the other one stop and ensure that it is on a straight line. Okay, so I'll go ahead to do this to the other end and I'm going to be sewing it straight up. So I'll quickly explain the ironing process. The same way you mark the up before you started sewing is the same way you will mark the down all through before you start pleating, and you ensure that each pleat sits directly where the other pleat ends. All you have to do is to mark it out and not gaze it out. Mark it out and follow the markings. It will make it easy for you and it will also come out nice. Just take out time to iron it so it will lay very flat. Let me add some ironing secrets. Now, this is when I was done ironing. This is the wrong part of my skirt, as you can see, the fold at the down. You would notice this glittering effect. To avoid this, you just do a quick ironing on the right side. The part where you sprinkle water and leave your iron on it to make it lay flat should be done on the wrong part, so that this glittering ironing effect will be at the wrong side of your skirt. So I actually mark my markings before I started ironing. You can see that I iron it to be laying really flat, so just take your time with this. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take the up part. I turned only the up part for both the front and for the back as well. I've also fixed my dart. Now we are going to be shaping this out. First I'll mark out my zipper allowance. I'll place the right side of the front facing the right side of the back, and I'm going to go ahead to measure out my measurement on the waist and on the hip point. Now you can go ahead to shape it like this if you want to put a side zip, but because I'll be using a back zip, I'm going to be shaping on the lining separately and on the fabric separately. So that's why I marked my measurement on the fabric separately and on the lining separately. So I'll go ahead to join it like this. When I'm done, I'll trim out any excess that I have, turn it up, and I'm going to top stitch the down part like this. Next, I'll notch the center of this, take the center of my pleated piece, pin it together at this point. I'm going to sew this all around. There is one more very important part, an even pleat at the back. Now on one side, your pleat is expected to sit directly on your zipper allowance line like this. Now because I have an excess at this point, do not make any careless cuts please, because you want the back to be very equal. So you measure what you have there at the down part so that you can make an even cut out, and I'm going to cut this out. Next, you are going to mark out your zipper allowance line so that it will guide you when you are joining this up. For the other end of your skirt, this is what the pleat will look like. Now the other pleat should end 1.5 inches away from your zipper allowance point. This 1.5 inches is not a constant. It should be the inch of each pleat that you work with. All right, you will see later in the video how it completes the other part. So I'll cut out the excess I have at this point, and I'm going to mark out my zipper allowance line straight down. So let me quickly explain the essence of the difference in the back pleat. So when you bring the back parts together and you take in your zipper allowance, you will notice that this pleat will complete the spacing of the other pleat, and everything will just align, and this will make the back part very relaxed. Okay, I'll go ahead to fix the zipper, and your zip should always stop on your hip line. There's a video on the channel on how to fix an invisible zipper neatly with your manual machine, link in the description box. After fixing the zipper, you can see how relaxed the back pleat is. Thank you so much for watching. If you try it out, please send me a picture of yours on WhatsApp. Bye.